In 2010, the McStay family, Joseph, Summer, and their two young sons, Johnny and Joseph Jr., simply vanished from their home in Fallbrook, California. No footprints, no signs of forced entry, no goodbye notes. Only silence and unanswered questions remained. This is the true crime story of a family whose disappearance would baffle investigators for years and haunt anyone who heard it. Joseph McStay, 40, ran a small but successful business installing decorative fountains across Southern California. Summer, 39, worked in real estate, helping families find their dream homes. Together they raised Johnny, age 4, and Joseph Jr., age 3. The family lived in a quiet suburb north of San Diego, where neighbors described them as friendly, approachable, and deeply committed to their children. Their home was tidy, their backyard meticulously maintained, and their two dogs were always cared for. From the outside, the McStays had everything a family could want: stability, happiness, and a future filled with promise. But on February 4, 2010, everything changed. Joseph's phone went unanswered. Summer stopped responding to emails and messages. At first, relatives assumed they might be traveling or simply busy. But days passed with no word. On February 6, family members decided to visit their home. What they found was eerie and unsettling. The dogs, left unfed and confused, barked incessantly. Inside, nothing was disturbed. Drawers, cabinets, and personal belongings were intact. It was as though the McStays had stepped out for a moment and never returned. Law enforcement soon became involved, and investigators combed through the house for clues. Phone records, bank accounts, and computer activity were scrutinized. The family's financial accounts, including over $100,000 in savings, were untouched. Their pets had been abandoned. Nothing suggested a planned departure. Every detail raised further questions, and the investigation quickly became complex. 3 days after the disappearance, their Isuzu Trooper was discovered abandoned near the Mexican border. Security camera footage captured a family of 4 resembling the McStays crossing the border on foot. But the footage was grainy and inconclusive. If it was them, why abandon their home, pets, and money? And why attempt such a dangerous journey with 2 young children, unprepared and seemingly alone? Speculation ran rampant. Some believed the family had left voluntarily, seeking a fresh start elsewhere. Others feared they had been coerced or were in danger. Conspiracy theories ranged from cult involvement to financial schemes, but none were substantiated. The case grew colder by the day, leaving investigators with only mysteries and unanswered questions. Neighbors recalled small details that, in retrospect, seemed strange. One neighbor remembered seeing Joseph leave for work unusually early, appearing tense and distracted. Another saw Summer leaving the house with groceries, rushing as if interrupted. No one reported seeing the family leave town, and no evidence suggested anyone else had entered the home. The case remained unsolved for years, but in November 2013, nearly 4 years later, a shocking discovery changed everything. A motorcyclist riding through the remote Mojave Desert near Victorville stumbled across human remains buried in shallow graves. Investigators arrived to find the skeletal remains of all 4 McStay family members. A rusty sledgehammer lay nearby, a grim artifact of the crime. The examination revealed horrifying details. Joseph had been beaten, an extension cord wrapped tightly around his neck. Summer's skull had been fractured. Both children had suffered blunt force trauma. The family, so full of life, had been brutally murdered and abandoned in the desert, far from the home and neighborhood they loved. Attention soon turned to Charles Chase Merritt, a former friend and business associate of Joseph. Merritt had a troubled financial history, with gambling debts and unpaid loans. Investigators discovered his DNA in the family's abandoned vehicle and evidence of financial misconduct, checks written to himself from Joseph's accounts after the disappearance. The motive became painfully clear: greed, betrayal, and an unfathomable disregard for human life. Merritt was arrested in 2014 and charged with 4 counts of murder. Over the following years, his trial revealed the gruesome and calculated nature of the killings. By 2019, he was found guilty and sentenced to death. Yet even with a conviction, the McStay case left lingering questions. Why commit such a violent act against an entire family, including 2 small children? What could drive someone to commit such an unspeakable crime? The impact of the disappearance and murder rippled through the Fallbrook community. Neighbors who once waved to the family now spoke only in hushed tones. The children's toys, once scattered across the backyard, remained untouched. The family's home, once filled with laughter and warmth, now echoed with silence. Even years later, the story of the McStays serves as a grim reminder of how quickly ordinary life can unravel. How trust, once broken, can lead to devastation. How a person's darkest impulses can destroy not only lives but entire families. Investigators, journalists, and true crime enthusiasts continue to study the case, seeking answers to questions that may never be fully answered. The McStay family's story is a chilling tale of mystery, betrayal, and tragedy, a haunting true crime story that reminds us appearances can be deceiving, and that the people closest to us may harbor the darkest secrets. This is the true crime story of the McStay family, the family that vanished without a trace, a story of love, loss, and the chilling realities that sometimes lie closest to home.